I'm a big Apple and iPhone fan, but still I've always wanted to use a Pixel. And the reason I haven't up until now is because here in Nigeria, you can't just walk into any store and buy one. So you would most likely have to import it yourself or buy from a store who already have imported it. So I guess I never really had an excuse. Or maybe you're just broke. But yeah, a couple days ago, I was hanging out with some creators, and this guy, Valor Reviews, had a couple Pixels with him. I asked him for one, and he gave me the 7 Pro. So I guess this video is sponsored by Valor Reviews. Anyway, I've been using the Pixel 7 Pro for about a week and a half now. What are my thoughts? Am I going to switch? Let's talk about it. Okay, so Pixels are known for two main things: cameras and software features. So those were the two main things I was most excited for. And starting out with the cameras, yes, they do take better selfies than my iPhone. So it doesn't do that darkening that the iPhone typically does and gets my skin tone like 9 times out of 10. Photos from the main camera as well were really good. Just as good, and in some cases better than my iPhone. The telephoto for me was probably the most fun to use, and I was very impressed with that too. And in moderately lit areas, the cameras were also very solid. Night mode 2 works really well and it produces good quality images. When I go out, I typically go with the Pixel and the iPhone, and I find myself picking the Pixel to take pictures more because I just preferred it. But that's not to say the Pixel's cameras are perfect, because they're not. Sometimes it gets the processing wrong, especially at night. Also, video isn't bad by any means. I mean, it does shoot up to 4K and it's pretty good, but I still think iPhones are superior in that department. Pixels, like I said earlier, are really good when it comes to software features. Like even in the camera app, there are 2 really interesting camera features when you look under motion. That's long exposure and action pan. Yes, you won't use these every day, but with these features, you can get pretty cool looking images. And even after you take a picture, there are features like photo and blur, which can help sharpen a blurry photo to make it somewhat usable. Or we have magic eraser, which lets you remove people from the background of your photos. These features are not just useful, but they're also fun to use. Oh, and we can't forget the incredible voice dictation on the Pixel, which accurately transcribes voices to text, which can be very helpful to students and really anyone who likes taking notes. But yeah, Pixels aren't just cameras and software, they're more than that. With design, for example, the Pixels and especially the 7 Pro has a much sleeker feel and look to it. The 7 Pro goes even further and bends the screen to the sides, making it feel even sleeker and more premium. The metal visor on the back gives it a very distinctive look. Like you look at it and you know it's a Pixel, which I would say is a good thing. I've heard some people say though that they do not like it, it looks weird. I don't mind it. In fact, I personally like it. But I would say though that I prefer the black color. The white's nice, but the black is nicer. Another thing I noticed, and I noticed this the second I picked up this phone, was how fluid it was. I always thought my 13 was pretty fluid, but the second I used this, that immediately changed. Everything felt so quick. So yeah, the display's fluidity and even resolution impressed me. It does go up to 1440p, but by default it stays at 1080p, which is where I left it, and it was very fine. The Tensor G2 isn't the most powerful chipset out there, and even in games like FIFA Mobile, it won't play at the best of settings, like on my iPhone. So it feels a tier below the best, but I would say even with that, the Pixel does really well. And I would say it's a pretty good performer. Like I said earlier, the phone felt snappy, like a flagship. So I guess that's fine too. There are other small things as well, like how good the haptics are. The speakers are also really nice. You also get 3 years of major Android updates, and on top of that, you'll be one of the very first to try out every new Android version. Also, the phone doesn't rock on a table because of the visor, so you can type on it while on a table and it'll be pretty comfortable. And I'm pretty sure there's more good stuff that I've just forgotten. So maybe you can tell me your favorite feature of the Pixel down in the comments below. But yeah, no phone's perfect. So here's what I do not like. Starting with the small things, maybe it's just me, but the button placement is just weird. Or maybe I just need time to get used to it. But yeah, I found myself tapping the volume button every time I wanted to turn this phone on, which became very annoying. The 7 Pro is not just tall, but it's also pretty wide. Touching the corners of the phone one-handed was always tasking. And I have big hands, so for people with even smaller hands, it must be even worse. And yes, the phone is sleek, but it's also very slippery, so you're going to have to wear a case on this one. Oh, and there's no room for expandable storage. Not good. These are pretty small issues if we're being real, but for me, the next two are pretty important ones, and that's software stability and battery life. I've watched way too many reviews of Pixel devices, and almost all talk about how buggy they are sometimes. But during my 2 weeks with the phone, I didn't experience any bugs, and I think the newer Pixel devices have fewer bugs, so I guess that's a good thing, but it's also something that you kind of have to consider when buying a Pixel. And yeah, the second is battery life. This I definitely experienced personally. Battery life isn't great. Standby time feels even worse. I was needing to charge this phone twice every day, which is a different experience from my 13, so I did not like that. But yeah, other than those two issues and the little small ones as well, I really enjoyed using the Pixel, and frankly, I might want to get one. Would I switch? No, but like I said, I would want to get one, so I perhaps might get the Pixel 8 and use it as a secondary device. Oh, and one more thing. People that have experience using Pixels tell me that the 7 Pro isn't all that, and that the 7 just gives you way better value for your money. Just thought I should add that. Either way, I enjoyed my time with the Pixel 7 Pro. I would have to return it back to Valor. Thank you, Valor, again for sponsoring this. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you when you see me.